Always Irish. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. What are you doing? Don't do this to me, Harry. The Ohio State. It's Ohio State. What do you mean the? It's a poison. I almost stroked out and died over it. I'm glad to be at the party. I'm mad we're this late. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship. That helps the defense without them even doing a damn thing. Doing a damn thing. The call-in line. 312-988-15. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Irish. Yeah. Woo! Woo! You never know what you're going to get when you log in here, folks. I'm just we can get into it. You can call me an idiot all you want. You could say we could do it all. But I'm just telling you, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I've been saying lately, the longer we're in this routine of doing this morning show and the people that are usually around for it anymore, the show. And today, apparently the show is I'm an idiot for doing my last episode and people disagree with what I'm saying. So we can, it's just it is a little bit surprising. I thought that was a pretty neutral episode. Going over, yes, some really bad stuff has happened in Freeman's early tenure at Notre Dame. And I was just trying to find ways we could emerge better for it on the flip side. And that ain't going over well. So that's all totally fine. You guys can all, whatever you want to do. Sometimes I just don't know what people want. I don't know what people want. They want perfect with no run up, no learning curve, no nothing, just perfect. Just no details, just perfect. And no nuance and no studying what needs to go in to get that result. We just want it to be perfect and that's it. Just the final product, perfect. That's it. So it's fine. So call me and tell me all the different ways I'm a fool for, here's the thing. You got the bad stuff that's happened. Okay, you got the bad stuff that's happened. Marcus 10-man, Marshall and Stanford, whatever. You got all this stuff, okay? I'm in a position of trying to figure out how we could be stronger or better getting past those mistakes. Right? Like we're months away from Ohio State and whatever, and the emotion of that's calmed down from the immediate burning heat of that pain and all that. And I was sitting there trying to find ways to be able to process this stuff where it can make you better later on. So it's not just a loss that's a loss, forever a loss, but maybe there's a lesson to be learned. Like I know Andrew was saying, oh, what can you learn from having 10 guys on the field? Like you're an idiot. He didn't say you're an idiot, but that's the implication. What could Freeman learn from having 10 guys on the field? You could learn that you can't get caught up in the moment and forget about the little details that go into fielding your football team in any given game. And I think that's a lesson that you could apply moving forward. Maybe not in terms of counting how many people are on the field, but the bigger picture of no little detail could be spared if we want to win a big game. I don't think that's ridiculous. It isn't necessarily about the 10-man thing. It's just about a new, younger head coach realizing you got to keep track of every little detail if you want to get over this hump and succeed. And I think that's a lesson that's reasonable. I think that's a lesson that's reasonable. But a bunch of people disagree with me, and I'm making excuses for Freeman and whatever. So it's fine. Just the other guy wasn't good enough. I didn't hear half of this heat for him. That's still, as much fun as I have with Kelly going at him, I'm sick of bringing him up too. It's even in my own mind now where it's just kind of, I want to roll my eyes when I got to bring him up. The other guy treated everybody like crap, didn't even put in the effort near what you needed, Notre Dame. And I have not heard half of the heat that Freeman gets, trying his ass off. I struggle with it. I'm just telling you guys, that is something that it's always going to bother me. The free ride Kelly had forever, and all the people who told me I was an idiot for not appreciating Kelly and that he was perfect and that it's the best we've had since Lou, so you should be grateful that we get blown out in one game a year and accept that and embrace it, and because it's the best since Lou. All of the heat I got for questioning Kelly, he just seemed to get away with not even trying that hard and treating everyone poorly. And he seemed to get away with that for a very, very long time. Now I got this guy genuinely trying his ass off, working his ass off, great communicator and relationship builder. And it's just, it's so frustrating. And Andrew's he's the one who jump-started my blood pressure today. He knows that. And we'll get into some of his chats specifically. Andrew's a really good debater. I watch a lot of online debates, political debates, world stuff and it isn't because of the cause. I enjoy the debate. I enjoy knowing both the arguments and how they're going to set each other up and where you want to go to get the debate and do this and that, whatever. Andrew's really good at presenting things that on the surface no one can question. Like losing to Marshall and Stanford's unacceptable. John, yes. Having 10 guys on the field isn't a good idea, John. Yes. Yes. He always presents arguments that you can't argue against, but that's where he stops. It's really, really smart. I like it. It's a really good tactic. It is. Everything he puts, he knows he's got to be careful or I'm going to pick at it. So it's always things that you can't push back on or you're going to look absurd. You're going to look absurd. You can't push back that only 10 guys on the field is okay, right? Or losing to Marshall and Stanford at home is okay. You can't push back on any of that. But you're not honoring the full discussion if you just put the final conclusion and ignore all of the complicated ingredients that go into getting there. And that's where I live a lot of the time, is in that nuance and in all of that pool of all those details and all the ingredients and all the things that have to be put together to get something somewhere. So it's a really good debate tactic by Andrew. It's a really good debate tactic because you can't argue with a lot of the points. But it's disingenuous to act like it's just this. You can't ignore the roadmap to get where the final answer is. I don't know. It's a little frustrating, but I'm open to it. Tell me, listen, I'll be honest. Usually I have a pretty good feel of where our people are at. I didn't have I just thought I'm doing an episode of how we could take these negatives that are negatives, and they're always going to be negatives, and God, here we go today. Pat's on here too now. We got a lot of phone calls. All I was trying to do in that episode, you guys, is take negatives and just find a way where you could be better off for them. So they're not just like lesson at the end of you messing up that makes you better in the future. I just feel like that's a pretty reasonable way to look at it. And the other thing is the part of, I don't have 45 minutes. Jesus. I'm struggling today. You're not going to just get perfect because you want it. And I don't understand. Here's the thing, man. This is so frustrating to me. It's just so frustrating to me. You're not, I don't understand how you just want a guy to just have it all figured out right away. Name me one job in the world. I will take your call. Give me a minute. Name me one job in the world where you don't get better at it the longer you do it. That's what I don't get. I don't understand how football is different than any other job for these people that are thinking this way, where the longer you have experience, theoretically, you should be improving at your craft. I feel like that's a concept that applies across the board to whatever job you're doing. Whatever it is that you're doing, I feel like it's a pretty understandable situation where the longer you're in a job, the better you should get at it. And I don't understand why that doesn't apply to football. I don't understand how that could not apply to football. That doesn't make sense to me. I just think you should be able to do that and get better at your craft, but apparently not. What? Are you still drunk from the weekend? What?
No, it's just funny watching you get so upset about something somebody says in your chat. It just cracks me up. Oh, Johnny. You know how I can tell you one of the many ways you are a fool?
What's that?
It's exactly this right here. You started a Notre Dame podcast to vent your frustrations, and all you do is get frustrated by your Notre Dame podcast.
Yeah, that's the way it goes here.
And to be fair, a lot of people, they may get better in their job, but some people will eventually start to get worse. And I don't know where Freeman is on that scale yet.
I just
I would assume he's still getting better, but he also hasn't proven anything to me that he actually has learned from his mistakes outside of putting 11 players on the field.
Yeah, it's I didn't think it was a controversial episode, Pat, but apparently it is. I
didn't even watch it. I didn't know what people are talking about.
I did an episode about some mistakes that Freeman should learn from and went over what he could learn from them. And I thought that was a fair thing to do. And apparently it offended a lot of people, and there's no excuses, and you have to be perfect at Notre Dame right away. And that's the only bar, and ignore all the Notre Dame specific things that get in the way of football success. Ignore all that. None of that matters. You should recruit like Georgia. No, you should recruit like Georgia. It was in the chat. Kirby didn't need that long. Notre Dame should recruit like Georgia. Okay. All right. That's fine. That's reasonable. That's reasonable.
Kirby took 6 years to win. To actually win it, he took 6 years. It's not like he did it overnight.
Yeah.
It took him forever to beat Bama.
And
it's a tall order, and it's the same thing Marcus Freeman's going to have to do, but it took him 6 years to do it.
And here's the other one, Pat.
Pat.
People are talking about, Andrew mentioned Harbaugh. How many years did Harbaugh have to be in Michigan to get that all figured out in the right way? A lot of years. That wasn't I don't know.
How many times did Harbaugh have to take pay cuts because they were going to fire him otherwise because his teams were terrible? Terrible.
Yeah.
I don't look. The thing I don't understand is why does everyone thinks you're glazing Freeman or you're trying to make excuses for him. You were the most pissed off person after the Ohio State game, outside of Rodney, who blamed it me. He blamed the loss on me.
Yeah.
So you were so mad about
the alcohol blamed you. The alcohol Rodney had called it. The alcohol. It wasn't Rodney. It was the alcohol that consumed him. Blamed you for it.
The funny thing about that was at the tailgate, Rodney hunted me down to apologize. I was like, dude, I don't care.
It was funny though. It was funny though, because Rodney was like, Pat, I blame you. You said USC was a bigger game. He really did go at you. It was great. He was like, you're the one that put it out in the ether that USC was more important. I blame you.
And I still stand by that. But but the idea, like, I like people are saying, well, I frame it against, the now or whatever. You have to use past comparisons to make a determination, of where we're at. So when I look at Marcus Freeman's first 2 years, and I look at Brian Kelly's first 2 years, because that's what I compare to. I don't compare to Brian Kelly's 10th year. I compare to Brian Kelly's second year and Marcus Freeman's first year and Brian Kelly's first year, Charlie Weiss's first year, Tyrone Williams' first year. Those are the comparisons. That's what you have to use. And I would say that Marcus Freeman, probably with a hat tip to Brian Kelly somewhat, because it was a better stable of talent. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it wasn't a great roster. The quarterback room was decimated. The wide receiver room was decimated. The safety room was decimated. The cornerback room would have been decimated if it wasn't for Benjamin Morrison. And we didn't know what was going on in the linebacker room. So really, you had kind of a quasi offensive line, and you had with Elston a defensive line. The rest of the roster had a lot of questions. But that is a better roster. It's still a better roster than what Brian Kelly took over from Charlie Weiss. And so, what does Brian Kelly do in his first 2 seasons? Does he win 8 games each year? 8-5, I think he went. What does Marcus Freeman do? He wins 9 games and he wins 10 games. So yeah, he started at a better place and he's finishing at a better place. So that's my comparison. So in year three, I have full expectation that Marcus Freeman, because Lou Holtz did it, Brian Kelly did it but lost, Devine did it, Sarkisian did it, Leahy did it. You're going to win a national championship in Notre Dame, you do it in year 3. So that's my expectation on Marcus Freeman. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to have serious doubts on Mark. I'm not going to throw in the towel, because I didn't throw in the towel on Brian Kelly when he got blown up by Alabama. And I'm not going to throw in the towel on Marcus Freeman if he doesn't win a national championship this year. But this football team better be in the playoff. It better be a high seed in the playoff. They better have a home game. They better win 1 or 2 rounds. And they better be contending. And my full expectation is they win a national championship. That's what I expect from this team. Because if you're going to be a successful coach in Notre Dame, that's what you're supposed to do this year. That's my expectation. That's the standard. We always talk about standards. What's the standard, John?
Yeah, I mean,
championship in year 3.
Yeah, that's the historical. The history does indicate that year 3 is a big deal. I don't know, Pat. It's just really weird to me. Nobody gets than I do. Nobody loses their mind more than I do. And I'm not saying any of it's okay. I see this, and you know what else? Here's what I really take heat for, Pat. All the other stuff matters to me a lot. All the behind the scenes stuff matters a lot in Notre Dame. No one wants to hear it. It's excuse making. building those relationships, getting the NIL more robust, getting those facilities, a bigger recruiting operation, portal flexibility, more undergraduate flexibility. All of these are items Freeman has furthered along, and you need to measure those things when you're looking at this holistically, where it's trending as far as what's happening around the program. And in every single area, I've seen improvement. Now, on the field, it's got to match that. You got to get better there. Obviously, that's the ultimate judge. But all these other ingredients help make that more possible. And I'm seeing positive movement in all those different areas. But that's just not not a popular angle.
In terms of, well, let me put it this way in terms of how I look at that stuff. I do think those are all good things. I do think those are all necessary things, and I do credit Marcus Freeman for ushering it along with his approach. I'm not in those rooms, so I don't know exactly how all this stuff is changing, but I think obviously with it all happening after Marcus Freeman gets hired, it's clear that he has to have something to do with it. But here's the thing. When Brian Kelly was the head coach, I said, I don't care about that shit. I don't care. I don't care if you're saying you're having a hard time getting your training table. I don't care what you got. I don't care if you're saying you're having a hard time getting a new stadium, which you got. I don't care if you're having a hard time getting a new practice facility, which he got. I didn't care if the admissions was giving him a hard time on getting players into the school. I said, it doesn't matter. It's always been that way. It's always been that way. So you can't use it as an excuse to win. So Marcus Freeman can't use that as an excuse to say, look, all this stuff is happening. That's why I'm the right guy for the job. Because it wasn't an excuse for Brian Kelly to use when he was losing. So it's not an excuse for Marcus Freeman to use that he's making this stuff better when he's not winning at the level we expect him to win. And when I say Brian Kelly losing, I'm talking about Brian Kelly wasn't winning national championships. Marcus Freeman isn't winning national championships. So when I was saying Kelly couldn't use that as an excuse for him not winning national championships, Freeman can't use that as an excuse. Well, I'm making all this other stuff better for not winning national championships. That actually makes Freeman's argument look worse at the end of the day. So Freeman's got to win national championships, and he's got to win a lot, and he's got to start doing it this year.
Yeah, I look at all these different areas, Pat. Like, that's how I picture it in my mind. All these different marking points. And then I measure them up, and I measure them up, and I'm like, which arrows are trending in the right direction for this program now? And then I have all these different categories that I look at. That's kind of how I do this. And under Kelly and a lot of the other coaches, they were going down or trending the wrong way or neutral. And then you have the on the field stuff or whatever. Now I see a guy with all those arrows kind of pointing in the right direction, but it's got to pay off on the field. And I understand that. It's almost like people are ignoring the part where I say, for all this stuff to matter the way I want it to, you got to be better on the field. I'm not saying that's not a part of the equation.
Yep. You just got to win. It's all, now you just got to win. You got to win. You got to win big. You got to win like it matters. It's just you got to win, and nothing else matters.
Jesus,
mistakes happen.
No,
you know what I get mad about, John? I get mad about people saying when they complain about the Marshall or the Stanford game. Like, do they not remember 2016? Do they not remember Tulsa and Navy? And like, you're going to hold that over Marcus Freeman? This is first year, like that stuff is so stupid. It's so minuscule, but we still hear about it. He lost to Marshall. Yeah, he lost to Marshall in his first season. Lou Holtz lost terrible games in his first season, and then he built one of the strongest college football programs a season and a half later. It's like, come on, let's get serious. That shit's in the past. Those are learning experiences. No one thought he was going to win a national championship in his first season. No one thought he was going to win a national championship in his second season. He was going out and he was trying. He's doing it. It's now his third year. There's no excuses. I give him weight on anything. If you don't go beat Texas A&M, look, he beats Texas A&M. I don't care what the score is. I'm going to be happy. But this should be a 3-touchdown blowout game.
Well, hey, listen, man. I'm telling you is
spots, John. They're two very different spots. Very different spots.
Nick Saban went 7-6 his first year at Alabama, and he wasn't even a new coach. Fired, rid of him. The guy will never figure it out. Like I just,
right.
Pat, I get it. My frustration is I get caught in this spot of like, are reasons and excuses the same thing? That's where I really get caught trying to explain some reasons that things are happening. John. But it's like reasons are excuses and excuses are reasons, right? Like when you bring up,
it's one of the same.
It's man, it's just I have major frustrations with this, Pat. I have so many frustrations. All those years, I was
John. You have frustrations. You have frustrations with the fact that you stuck your neck out for Freeman, and nothing has actually come home to prove your point yet. That's what your frustration is.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that's a part of it. Like, yeah, obviously, I would love it if I did all that and was early on the train, and then he was elite right off the bat. Obviously, I would love that. We would all love that.
Yeah.
But man, here's the ultimate thing, Pat. I feel
I'm not saying you got to back away from it. We both knew it was going to take time.
I feel a lot of momentum.
This is the year.
I feel a lot of program momentum when I look at all the modernization they're doing to keep football relevant in the modern age and all that. And Freeman's driving a lot of it. I see a lot of positive momentum there, but nobody wants to hear it because nobody wants to hear it because you had 10 guys on the field. So like there's nothing we could there's nothing that's going to change anybody's anything till we get into the season. So it's almost like people want evidence that isn't available to them yet. We're not even in the year. And so I thought it was a fairly neutral episode, Pat. Let's talk about the bad stuff that's happened and how we could be better for it. I just thought that was a pretty harmless summer episode to fill up an episode. And no, it's just all excuse making, and I don't care if we win as long as Freeman's a nice guy, and everybody should know that's not how I operate. But whatever.
I mean, oh, Johnny. So I got today day off. I'm gonna go. We're going to the boat club. We're gonna do some swimming, some boating.
Good for you.
So that's your show.
Good for you, man. Hopefully you don't get fall off that wakeboard or whatever happened to you that one summer. Remember that?
Oh, when I was water skiing and the wife tried to kill me?
Yeah, she needs to be more complete with her plans next time. All right.
Hey, real quick, just so we know, Notre Dame has 20 because one of the trolls keeps talking about Kelly or Freeman signing another 3-star. So let's see. According to Rivals, we have 4 3-stars, so that means we have 17 4-stars, and some of them are probably going to get, and with them being the quarterback and stuff, we're probably going to become 5-stars when they redo it. Yeah, I think he's doing fine on the recruiting front, so I'm not going to. You can spew the stupidity you want to spew, but let me see. What does Ohio State have?
Yeah, it depends where you look, too. If you go to like the 247, they have us with way more 3-stars, whereas Rivals alone has a lot of those guys as 4-stars. So it does depend on where you look. Pat, get out on the boat, man. Go outside. Good for you. Good for you. Thank you.
All right. Later.
See you.
Bye.
Oh, boy. All right. Let me hit this real quick just because he's coming back at me. Then we'll do the phones. I truly don't understand why you go the learning curve route with Freeman. Where was Urban's learning curve? Lincoln Riley's, Dan Lanning's. Harbaugh won immediately as it took him 7 or 8 years to get over the hump at Michigan ultimately. And it took a lot of patience for them to get there. Also, see, here's the other thing that's going to be an excuse. None of the people you're mentioning did it at Notre Dame. None of these people, none of these coaches did it at Notre Dame. It is, if you don't admit it's a different type of job having to do all the stuff at Notre Dame you got to do. If you don't admit that, Maybe you don't know Notre Dame football the way you think you do. I'm not excusing 10 men on the field. I'm not excusing losing to Marshall and Stanford at all. But it is a different beast taking the Notre Dame job. There are different things you got to do and worry about and extra constraints you don't have other places. It's not an excuse to fail, but it's not the same as saying, why can't he do it like Kirby did it? Because Notre Dame can't recruit like Georgia recruits automatically on autopilot, reading and writing optional, cars, whatever color you want. And again, I don't like having to say it because it's an excuse. And it is an excuse. But these things are not all the same situations. Winning at every place is not the same. That's why Kelly went to LSU. It's easier to win. It should be easier to win at LSU because of all the advantages you have, geographically, talent-wise, getting guys into school, all of that. I don't know. The learning curve cope for a Power 5 HC is beyond absurd. If your coach needs a learning curve, guess what? You hired the wrong coach. Fine. Then be mad at Jack for hiring the wrong coach and be mad at an old retired lawyer who hates me. I don't know. Kirby Smart's 48. He took over Georgia at 40. First time head coach. Why didn't he need a learning curve? Dude, fine. So you disagree with the hire. You want everything to be perfect right away. Ignore all the details. Ignore all the struggles. Just you want perfect right away. You take a simple argument and then make it sound intellectual. You just call it that. You want it to be perfect no matter what. Forget the details. Forget what needs all the bullshit that needs to go into making a football product really good. Ignore all of that. You're at Notre Dame. It's got to be perfect. Frank Leahy would appreciate your mentality. How do you learn from 10 men on the field against Ohio State? I already said that is such a negative, humiliating thing. The lesson you take from it is a realization that no detail can be forgotten about if you want to win one of these games. I think that's a valuable lesson. And maybe one that a younger head coach overlooks because you're worried about higher end stuff and you forget the details or whatever it is. Or maybe the lesson is I need to have a tighter rein on my assistants because somebody dropped the ball on that one if it wasn't me or whatever. I don't get why the fan base is so forgiving and supportive. Again, some of it's human nature, Andrew, and you may want to be a robot that affect you. But when the fan base sees a guy with the personality of Freeman that treats people the way Freeman does, they're going to be more apt to give him more understanding than a guy who's an asshole and treats everybody like crap and doesn't work as hard. You don't have to like that answer. You don't have to accept that answer. But at Notre Dame, relationships matter more than they matter at a lot of other football places. And especially contrasting the current dynamic in that part of this with the previous one. That's why. That's why. Because people see the guy genuinely working hard and treating people the right way. And that's a big deal to a lot of Notre Dame people. That's the answer. You don't have to like it. You can type in there, that's so weak, just win games. Do that all you want. You don't have to like the reality. You don't have to accept that fact. That is why Freeman gets more understanding, because he's a nice guy who works hard. That is the most human thing that applies no matter what industry you're in. You could think that that's weak. You could think that's dumb. You could think that that shouldn't matter, but it does. Just because you think some of this stuff doesn't matter doesn't mean you don't speak for everybody else. John, what happened? You were coming so strong on Sunday, but flopped yesterday with the free pass stuff. Let's keep the Sunday energy. Again, I do an episode Sunday I do an episode Sunday saying, you know, you got to get this right. And do you want to win this A&M game? And going off on like, you need to win and all, like I'm doing all of that. I thought it was pretty harmless to say, let's look at the bad shit that's happened and see how we could be better for it. That just seems like a reasonable take. Apparently not. All right. Commander wants to yell at me about my take, and then we'll bring Dr. John up. Today got all messed up with all this stuff. What's up?
Yeah. Wake up Wednesday, baby.
All right.
I'm not here to yell at you, man. I just think we're missing a very, very most important key ingredient.
What's that?
When it comes to Marcus Freeman, does he have that something extra? I talked about this a couple months ago when I think I was drunk, and I talked about confidence. All right?
It was
Does
just...
he had that little... And all the winners got it. They all got an edge.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Does Freeman have that? That's going to be the basis of what he can be. You can train him. You can teach him. And he can learn. But does he have the unteachable within him?
I think that's fair.
I think that's what a lot of the people...
I think
that's what a lot of these people are questioning, but they're just not saying it. But they're questioning, does he have an inning? Whatever it is, you know, it's a combination. It's a whole lot of things, you know.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And Notre Dame specifically has had these personalities over our history that make a big, big difference. I'm with you on that. Can you go over with me what you disagreed with the most from my what Freeman can learn from these mistakes episode? I'm totally open to it. I'm not going to yell at you. I want to know what your main pushback was to that episode.
Well, you know, I don't like those kind of videos where we make excuses. I didn't like the entire thing. I wanted to keep the vibe rolling from where we're talking about, you know, the boot camp mentality and what it's going to take, you know, who are going to be the key players to make this and to get these guys that edge that we're talking about. And like I said, maybe some don't have it. You're gonna have to pull them up. The guys that do have it, your leaders. You know, the captains are going to be very important for Marcus Freeman this season. He's the general. They're his platoon leaders. You know, his assistants are his colonels and his lieutenants. You know, get that linebacker coach involved. He's got what I'm talking about. You know, as far as the video, you know, I be honest with you, I watched it, but it didn't resonate with me like the one on Saturday because it's a different level than me.
Yeah.
But you know, there's just I don't know. This plan should have been in place when the season ended on how we're going to go about the summer. Okay. Again, like you've been hitting a lot of it perfectly, saying, "Oh, they got to make it personal. They got to make it personal." Yes, they do, and so does Freeman. But does he have that in him? I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know either. That's a really good point. I don't know either. That episode where I was yelling about the boot camp mentality is what I want him to do. He could go in there and go business as usual, business trip to Texas or whatever. I'm telling you what I want it to be. I'm telling you what I want it to be to get this cranked up. I don't know what he's going to do, but that message was what I want him to do.
And so when people start, you know, one of the things when you know, I've been called racist and everything else because I've seen Dan Patrick. Marcus Freeman was on there. He was talking. He seemed like a cool guy. He was funny. He was, you know, exciting to listen. You know, he was good. I like listening to him. Good, all fine. But we're not here for you, you know, to entertain us in, you know, on how nice of a guy and how witty you are and, you know, all this stuff. That's not why you're here. You know, I don't know what the plan is going into fall here, but we need to say if Marcus Freeman's learning on the job, then we need to see a new Marcus Freeman. We've seen, not to go back to your favorite coach, BK, but we did see him. He had different personalities. He would flip. Okay, we need to see now. We need to see a flip in Marcus Freeman. I need to see that this year. I need to see an intense Marcus Freeman. It's going to start in fall camp, and he's got to pull his leaders: Riley Mills, Xavier, Evans, you know, Cross, and Morrison. He should get in on it too. He's an upperclassman now, and he's a proven player whose words mean something because his play backs it up. You got to get these guys and pull them to the side. You know, hey, fall camp ain't happening right now. A lot of these guys are flying off on vacation, you know, screwing off. Why? You only got 4 years to do this. You know, most of these guys, you're not going to. There needs to be some accountability. The leaders on the team are going to be very important this year. I don't know if this is making sense, but
yeah,
you know, I have a vision in the boot camp approach. You know, the phones are gone. Camp comes. Guess what? Phone. Tell your parent. Tell your mom and dad. Whoever you care about. I'll see you later. I don't know when, but you know we're going to do something here. And you know the girlfriend's gone.
You know what, man? You know what it feels like? Here's what it feels like sometimes. Sometimes I feel like there's been a fear from Notre Dame, the program, to build up a big game moment as big as they could out of fear that if it doesn't, it'll be a bigger negative on them the bigger they build it up. Do you get what I'm saying? Like sometimes I wish Kelly would have built up some games bigger rather than the business trip thing to get our emotion up and make it a big deal. Sometimes I feel like Notre Dame shies away from that for some reason. A&M's a big deal, and I have no problem building it up as such. And I hope they do. I hope these guys understand this isn't just some run-of-the-mill 1 out of 12. This is a different moment, and I want to see them build that up. I want to see that intensity in camp. I want to see it built up. I want our guys to know this game is a big one. You have to have it and do everything to get it. And I want to feel that vibe in August.
And so, me speaking for the group that I lean towards, I would say that's what we're looking for. That's what we want to see and believe in a coach who's going to be like that. Because let's face it, Freeman needs to treat it this way because the fact is, if he goes out and loses, it don't matter if you build it up to be, you know, the world is on the line and you lose, or you just say, well, it's just week 1, you know, we can come back.
Yeah.
It's still a loss. And the reality is it's not going to be a good, if you're going down a road, it's not going to be a good, you know, it's not going to be good. You lose that game, you're losing more.
Yeah.
And so let it all hang out. If I'm Marcus Freeman, what do you have to lose? Let it all hang out. If you have a terrible season and Notre Dame fires you, yeah, you'll leave Notre Dame disgrace and people will talk shit for a little bit. But guess what? You're going on to do something else.
Yeah.
You're going to make another, you know, more millions doing something else. So while you're here, you know, make it matter.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, I'm with you, man.
Make it matter.
I'm with you. And I got to tell you, man.
Get your.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and get your captains involved in this. Like I said, everybody will not be treated the same. And some of these practices in camp, guess what? Your recruits should not be around to see what how we're going to treat these guys. We're going to push them, and we're going to break them. We're going to make them one, you know. And I would go in and I would brief the captains on this and be like, hey guys, this is what we're going to do. You know, if I get into you, you know, don't take it personal. You're still the captain, but I'm putting it on you because you can take it. Meanwhile, our freshman over here, just for example, I'm not going to lay into a freshman. Maybe if I think he could take it, yeah, but I'm not going to run him off. But I will put the fear in him. Hey, I don't want to be singled out like he just singled out Riley Mills. If he'll yell at him, he'll yell, and he'll question him. And that's the way it's got to be pressure, peer pressure, accountability. It starts with Coach Freeman and his captains and the assistant coaches. I would put even behind the captains on the leadership.
Yeah, it's man, it's so simple in a lot of ways, Commander. A lot of this is so simple, but at the same time, very interconnected, and there's a lot of complications. Like the theories are simple. Like winning's better than losing. These are simple conclusions, but all of the ingredients to get there are complicated and they matter. And I don't know, man. It's a weird spot to be. Would I be lying if I didn't say it's a lot easier position for somebody like me if I really don't like the head coach and don't feel like we're trending in the right direction? It's a lot easier to be negative and crap on everything and have perfect standards and everything. So it does complicate it when the on-the-field stuff hasn't been good enough. But I do genuinely see arrows in all the other parts of the program pointing upward in an upward trajectory I haven't seen in my lifetime in Notre Dame. That puts me in a very weird spot.
That's a hell of a stretch.
In what way?
To say that they're right now, as the Notre Dame team is it's just, the arrows are all pointing up.
Listen.
Never seen anything like this before.
Name a part of the program.
You were there for brief.
Name a part of the program that has gotten worse in the ancillary areas that make Notre Dame football work. Name a part of the program that's gotten worse since Freeman has arrived. I'm not talking about the game. I'm not talking about the record. The record's the record and it ain't good enough and we all know that.
No, hey,
I'm saying
the records are better. The record at this point, comparing Coach Freeman to, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look, but Coach Freeman's record in his first 2 years, we've already established are better than Kelly by a game.
Okay.
I can't remember what Charlie Weiss, he came in hot with Brady Quinn.
I believe Freeman tied Weiss's first 2-year win record or something. It's something like that. But again, okay, see, here we go again, though. Andrew Gilmore, the record is the only thing that matters. If that's the case, why do any of this? Why do any of that? Why do I do any of that? You just show up for the games and ignore all the ingredients that go into building a football program. That's only half the story. The record is what matters, but the 8 things on my list behind the scenes are what add up to your record. Getting all these other items in the right places are what helps you have a better winning record that matters. That's the part that's the message I struggle to get across. That's the message I struggle to get across is Andrews.
And you're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to do some things that you might not be real sure about. And then those risks is going to make you or it's going to break you. But at the end of the day, you'll be able to look in the mirror and say, hey, we tried. We gave it everything we had, and we tried, and we did our best. And our best, either it was good enough on that day or it wasn't.
Yeah, it's
you got to take risks.
Yeah, it's man, this is a good It's a good, complicated situation here.
Yeah, it is, man, because they do have good pieces. I'm trying to look up something the other day. Somehow I come across the Texas Longhorn spring game. Who do I see slinging the ball? Arch Manning, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns. Why can't that be CJ Carr? They both got the same pedigree. They're, like I said, you're gotta have to take risks. I want to know who's getting number 2 team quarterback reps in fall camp.
Yeah.
If it's not at least equal between Carr and Angeli, then that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
You already know they're not playing Angeli next year. We already know that.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
I feel that.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting that you would go to a guy as your backup, but he's likely not going to be the starter the next year, even though it could be his time. That is very, very interesting, that angle. I get what you're saying on that. Anything else, man? Thanks for the call today. I appreciate you.
No, other than I donated $5 on Sunday after I seen the boot camp video. And then it never came through. I know it's only $5, but it's my $5 that I gave to you. I didn't give it to YouTube. Did it go through to you?
Was it linked to the Freeman video or the live stream? Because those are two different things.
It was on the live. Okay, I put it on the live on Sunday afternoon. I put in there $5.
So
when you did your video on Monday.
After I posted it. So I think maybe when the new day comes, maybe it wiped it. I'll be able to look it up, man. I'll look it up. If it's going to bug you, I'll be able to see if I got it. I'll look it up for you. I will.
Well, it ain't that big of a deal, but still, I didn't give the money to YouTube.
Yeah, and I appreciate the $5 holler, man. Hey, your last couple calls have been pretty good, man. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, John. You too.
Have a good one. Man, I get it. We all want. Let me rephrase. The record is the most important thing by leaps and bounds. I totally agree. There. Are our problems solved? I totally agree. You're not going to find somebody like me doing this who says that the record isn't ultimately the most important thing. That's absolutely true. Then, if you're intellectually honest, then you say, right? The record is the most important thing by leaps and bounds. Yes, no one can disagree with that. Then what is your next thought? What is your next thought? After you acknowledge the record's the most important thing, your next thought is, what are the items that go into making your final record what it is? Isn't this all logical? Is everybody following me? Everybody can agree. The record is ultimately the most important thing that should judge your success or anything else. I totally agree with that. For Freeman, for Kelly, for Rockney, Leahy, whatever it is. The record is absolutely the most important part. But you can't just end the discussion there. There's nothing else to talk about. Why does anybody write any articles? Why does anybody do media in the offseason? Why do you cover recruiting? Like, that's where I really struggle with this. Maybe it's because of what I do every day. Because it's like, if you just say the record's it and there's nothing else to consider, then you only tune in for the games and you never read an off-season article. You never do a podcast about recruiting because the record all that matters. Well, then ignore recruiting then. Don't. If the record's all that matters, then Andrew, I want you to quit writing about the wide receiver situation isn't good enough. The record's all that matters. Ignore all that stuff. Right? The record is the most important thing. But you then need to talk about what goes into making the record. And that is where I get into a checklist of all these different areas trending in the right direction under Freeman that weren't under not only Kelly, but other Notre Dame recent coaches. That's what I mean by that is, yes, the record's the ultimate thing that matters. But you have an intellectual obligation to then take stock of a whole litany of things that need to line up right to give you a good record. And that's where I see the improvement in the relationships and the way they're trying to expand the recruiting. Freeman's getting more flexibility with undergrad entry and portal type stuff. That's in the works. The recruiting office has expanded as far as even just people they hire. The amount of people to help do the work is expanding. The NIL thing is getting more robust. All of those things matter a lot to me, and they're trending in the right direction. Now, if you go 8-4 this year, it's telling you a different sign, right? Like, you're doing all those things that I do like. It's got it. Like, the on the field results have to start like piling up. They got to start piling up. But it's so much more complicated. Just say the record's all that matters. Andrew Gilmore reads and sees every bit of media I and all these other people do in the niche. He's on the other shows. He sees all these different takes. Why do all that, Andrew? If the record's all that matters and none of this other summer stuff and the recruiting and all, if you don't want to deal with any of it, then it's just those 4 hours on 12 Saturdays then, and that's it. But to me, a lot of the intrigue of college football comes from all the bullshit that leads to the record. All that nuance, all that, the way you operate. Oh, there's a lot of meat on that bone. There's a lot of meat on that bone. I just really, man, you got to beat Texas A&M. You just do. We got a bunch of calls. This is a hot topic. Dr. John, I'm sorry I made you wait on a Wednesday.
Do we need a sound check or do you have me?
I have you loud and clear. Thank you. That's one frustration I won't have this morning.
Okay, well, you take a couple of deep breaths while I give you a couple of comments before my agenda. Number one, please note, Cotter owes me big time. And I should have put tequila in my coffee this morning.
It would have been a good start.
Handle a commander.
It would have been. It would have been an electric start. Dr. John, I understand where people are coming from on this. I also feel like I understand the way I'm trying to look at it holistically and everything going into this. We're just in between a rock and a hard place, and how you want to look at all this. I'm struggling with it a little.
Well, I watched your video, and I wonder. I'm wondering about a lot of the comments. I haven't been reading the chat while I've been listening, but and I wonder how much of those comments are just trying to get you under your skin. The 3 points in that video, 2 of them, the coaching selection and the 10 men on the field, those are easily corrected. The learning experience, I mean, the 10 men on the field, okay, you got to set something else up to make sure you don't do that. That's fine. The recruiting thing is the big thing. And the fact is, comparing this situation to anything now, because of the landscape of college football has changed so dramatically, especially in the recruiting area. You just can't compare this crap anymore with what's gone on in the past.
That's a very fair point. You know what? That is a really good point. Is it a moving target of comparison, looking at what came before with the way the recruiting goes now and how much has changed and the money and the no sit out transfer part of it? It is kind of hard to cross compare those eras.
I read through the NCAA NIL rules, and I'm telling you, you better have your attorney with you when you go to a recruiting session.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they're talking about a database for athletes. and I'm trying to figure out what that's for. Is it to compare what other guys are getting over time? I mean, what else would that database for the athletes be?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah. You know, and then it's like, okay, there's something in there they can't really solidify a deal until there's a letter of intent or you've attended class.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean,
man, yeah. You know what a part of this too
but
is?
what it boils down to, like I said, the landscape has changed so much. It's almost impossible to compare.
Yeah.
And now with the playoff situation, same thing. So Freeman wins 12 games and wins one game in the playoffs. That would have been a national championship.
Oh yeah, like that's another good point. The way we gauge successful seasons. Think about that change, Doc. The way we are going to gauge what a successful season is or not is totally going to be different now with this expanded playoff and like what we consider good or bad or whatever. It's all going to change. Oh, by the way, I wanted to let you know, I took a picture outside your old stomping grounds at Notre Dame last Friday. Just for you, I made sure I stood on those steps of that old dorm for you, buddy.
Oh, you did? Where's the picture? You gotta send it to me.
I will. I'll send it to you, but I made sure I did it just for you. I know I have it queued up. I'll email it to you. I think you'll get a kick out of it, but I did it just for you.
Well, thank you. Did you get Soren College in the picture?
I certainly did. Yes.
All right.
Yep. I will.
All right.
I'll send it to you. That's the whole reason we went over there and walked by there. I told my senior, I said, we got to get a picture for the doc there. He'll get a kick out of it. I'll send it to you. Dr. John, can I ask you a genuine question? Let me ask you a genuine question. And you and I are close, on the air, off the air, whatever. And I want your honest answer. And I'm totally open to it no matter which way you go. Do you feel like I make too many excuses for Freeman because I'm a fan of the way he operates and carries himself, and that I let that impact me too much to where I build in it too many excuses for him? Do you believe that I do that too often or somewhat often? Do you think that's a part of what's going on here? Is
what excuse have you made?
Oh, I don't know. It takes time, and you got to learn. And and the roster wasn't as good as what Freeman people wanted it to be, and you need to build it back up. And you had to get the right staff in there. I don't know, anything that I do, because it's just reasons are excuses, and excuses are reasons, and it's just frustrating.
There you go.
It's frustrating.
I think you label some reasons. People who are on the other side of the fence on some issue are going to label them excuses. Here's the thing. He's a first-time coach, yes. But like I said before, he's got that Parsegan feel. I don't know if it's just his demeanor or what. We'll see. In 5 years, he's going to be great, just like Era, probably.
Yeah, it's.
But to answer your question, no, I don't think you've made excuses. You've given reasons, and you've had to go over them time and time again because people can't take an issue with you.
Man, and here's where I'm at, man. I cannot get away from the effort part of this. A big part of my allegiance to Freeman has to do with the work ethic. While we're doing this, knowing how much work the guy's putting in, and me feeling like he's genuinely doing all he can to further this, that's a big deal to me. That is the baseline big deal to me. And you haven't had that before. And that does make me want to support it because I see that the guy's working as hard as he can to get this right, and the other guy didn't. That is night and day, man. That you want to talk about me giving you a little leeway to get things figured out when I know you're working at the level he's working at to get it done. I want to see a guy like that succeed. But again, that's an excuse. You had 10 guys on the field. So,
Well, there's no excuse for it happening. No. What you do is you make sure it doesn't happen again. You take a look at your procedures and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Mistakes are going to happen. I don't care who's coaching.
Yeah. It's, man, I don't know, man.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing comparison with Parsegian to me. Neither he nor Freeman were Notre Dame guys, but they get it. Freeman shows up at these other sporting events. He gets it.
Yeah.
My big concern is how's his wife and kids doing,
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's a lot to consider there and a lot of kids coming and going and everything. Dr. John, we're in kind of like no man's land right now. And I think that's a part of this larger discussion, Doc. We're at a part of the calendar now. I think people start, maybe it's me too. You start getting in your own head. You're here in the summer and the weeks are going by and football is a long ways away and you have all this anxiety and you have the past and you don't know the future and you have all this and you have all the recruiting and everything and I just feel some anxiety because there's no answers for a long, long time. We got to wait a long time to get any more answers. And I just feel like that grinds on people. And sometimes I even get into my own head. Like I can overthink things sometimes too. Sometimes I just need to put it all down and go fishing for an afternoon or something.
Go into a coma for a couple of months.
Man.
There you go, John. Go have your doctor induce a coma.
How am I going to run the show? I'm going to have to create an AI generated Always Irish where I could be somewhere else and program it to react the way I would. So, Dr. John, here's the thing, man. Everybody has the same goal in mind here. That's the thing. Not the trolls that don't like Notre Dame, but Andrew Gilmore, the commander, anybody. We all have the same goal for Notre Dame. It's just a matter of what is the right way to get to those results and what is the right way to look at it and everything. But we all have the same goal. I know Andrew loves Notre Dame the way I love Notre Dame. We just look at how we're going to get here a lot differently, I guess.
Yeah, well, I got to take Andrew to task a little bit.
Oh, boy.
Since you brought that subject up because, well, on Monday he's talking about Notre Dame needs to break some rules. That's BS. No, you can't break the rules.
Well, you're no longer Notre Dame then. And again, though, here's where it starts getting complicated. Why can't Kirby didn't need time at Georgia? We're never going to recruit like Georgia. It's not physically possible. So right away, that comparison is a bad one to me because it's 100% night and day how you could build out your program at Georgia versus Notre Dame. So that on the surface, it's like, look at Kirby and he's done it. Notre Dame can't build their program out like Georgia and Kirby did. So you're already talking about apples and oranges. Right there is another example of where I get in the nuance of this and have some disagreement.
Well, and this is where Freeman and his staff, like I said, are key. Recruiting is always going to be a minefield.
Yeah.
And, there aren't any 100% guarantees, even after the guy signs a letter of intent for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So, these guys, from what I can see, build relationships. And I think because the NIL stuff they're trying to make a level playing field there. So it boils down to your relationship with your kids and keeping them on board. Keeping them on board.
Yeah, it's
Anyway,
it's gonna be interesting to see how this all closes out. Dr. John, it's good. It's
tailgate's 3 months from Friday.
there you go. Beautiful. Three months.
And here's the news on the anthem. My youngest daughter's coming out here in July for my birthday, so we'll have our first full-fledged rehearsal. I'll tell you how it goes.
I want to know. Yeah, let me know. Let me know how this goes. I appreciate you, Doc. Get out there and play some golf today.
Well, I can't. Oh, incidentally, I was going to make a comment. My phone is like my 3-wood. Mysterious. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, there you go. We never know if it's going to work or if it's going to get broken
All right, bud.
Have a good one.
Take care. Have a great rest of your show. Oh, I'm heading I'm on the road again tomorrow on my way to Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Man, I'm telling you what, you are an international man of mystery. Safe travels. You're all over the place, man. Safe travels, and tell the girl I said okay?
No, it's not a girlfriend. It's a buddy turns 80. In fact, his birthday's today. Party's on Saturday. So,
man.
Anyway, I may have to just listen from the road on Friday. So
beautiful. Safe travels, buddy.
Go get them.
Yep. Safe travels.
Yep. Go get
them. Blaze came back here to say the same thing he said last week, and I'm going to give you the same answer. Dr. John can have as much time as he wants because I love that man, and I'm giving him as much time as he wants. And there's nothing you're going to say that's going to change it. That's my guy. Never going to change. Kent's taking what I'm saying and twisting it. When I said Notre Dame's not Georgia, they can't build it out like Georgia. John's the one who said ND can't recruit with Georgia. That's because before you were in here, somebody said to me, why did Kirby have no big run up to be able to do what he wanted to do at Georgia and whatever? And then my response is Notre Dame cannot be built and put together the way Georgia is in recruiting. So then Kent said, oh, so John, you're saying they're more on Penn State level than Georgia level. Notre Dame is on Notre Dame's level. There is no other institution that is set up the way Notre Dame is to be able to get where they want to go, build out a program, recruit. It's not better, worse. That's not an excuse to not do well, because if you want to coach there, you're signing up to do more work. Well, Kelly didn't. But normally people, when you sign up to be the head coach in Notre Dame, it's understood and baked in that a lot more has to be done to get a similar result to some other places, because Notre Dame just has extra things you got to consider and do. John, what level is that? I don't know. One where you have to read and write to get in the building. Is that registered to you at all, Kent? That at Notre Dame, you have to actually be able to read and write and be like, have high test scores to be able to come in and play football. And you can't just take any fast kid in the country and it doesn't matter if they can read and write. Like, that's an example. Getting people into school is hard at Notre Dame. It's not a consideration at any of these other football factories. Are we going to ignore that? Oh, that's excuse making, John. Oh, that's excuse making. Ugh. Bro, sometimes this stuff wears me out. Willful ignorance. Willful ignorance. If anyone's going to tell me recruiting Notre Dame football is anything similar to doing it anywhere else, you're just not being honest. And you don't want to admit all the ingredients that go into this that make it a tough job at Notre Dame. Now, again, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. You're signing up for that. Did you get what I'm saying? It's not an excuse. Like, Freeman can't use it as an excuse, and Kelly couldn't. That's why I got so mad about Kelly. We got to shop down a different aisle and it's all harder. My argument was, you knew that when you took the job. You're not able to complain about it. You don't take the Notre Dame job unless you're okay doing more work to get the final result. That's baked into it. Whose fault of it is it you guys would rather have space guys instead of football players? Right. That is Notre Dame's choice. And anybody who chooses to become Notre Dame's coach must accept the increased responsibilities and obligations. It's a harder job. For all those reasons, the cold weather, the lack of women, the test scores, all of it. All of it. Those guys actually have to go to school. It's really annoying. It's really annoying. Man, it's just, I'm having a rough day on the old chat lines, bro. 385-917-574. Next one's up. Lack of women. Dodger, I hear that every single time people talk about Notre Dame recruiting. It's like we don't have the co-eds running around in sundresses in the quad. I've heard that my whole life. My whole life I've heard that as a negative recruiting against Notre Dame. Although, man, I think that's changing. I'm not kidding you guys. I'm very observant. I think that's changing. When I'm around Notre Dame now, there's a lot more good-looking girls around than I remembered when I was like 20. I'm not kidding. When I'm around Notre Dame now, there seems to be way more cute, good-looking girls than there was when I was like 20, man. I'm just telling you. So I don't know, but I've heard all of these. Man, you just can't please everybody here in this dynamic. No excuses. No, it's got to be perfect, but the other people got away with losing a bunch of games and it was fine, but this guy's got to be perfect. Like, I need consistency. I need consistency. That's a big problem with the argumentation a lot of times. And I really admit I struggle with it a lot. I see a lot of inconsistency with the standard that was for Kelly versus Freeman. I do not think they're equal at all, and I don't understand that. And it bothers me every day. It bothers me. Freeman's got to be perfect, but Kelly got away with not even trying hard and not recruiting hard and treating people like crap and not getting over the hump on his field. And we did that for over a decade, and most of the fan base was just fine with it. John, quit complaining. Best since Lou, go along with it. You should be bowing down to Kelly. That's a big, 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 big part of the issue I'm having with the discussion we're having today. If you're having high standards, have high standards. But I didn't see that, man. I was just told to just accept whatever Kelly does. Let him talk down to you and the fans and not try hard in recruiting, and you need to just accept it. But now Freeman's here and he has to be perfect, and it's not the same standard. And I don't get why. Over a decade we did that Kelly thing, and it was fine. But then Freeman's here and it's got to be perfect right away. If Kelly tried hard and was like good to people and got those results, that's a little, I can understand where you at least like the man. You at least like the man and give him a little leeway or whatever for the effort. That ain't what you got. So I don't know, man. Kent. Your guy's new name is Notre Dame, the School of High Academic Science Institution. It may as well be, Kent. It may as well be, brother. $10 holler. I get frustrated because ND fans forget. We all said Freeman would need time to grow. This is only his third year. We're going to have to give him at least 2 more years. Oh, you got to be perfect year one. He inherited a Super Bowl winning roster, Nick. What about that? $5 holler. John, it was a good episode, bro. I appreciate that. I'll bring you up. Notre Dame's wine and cheese. Very good. That added since I came back from Notre Dame and gave my friends a hard time. If only record matters this early and not off the field stuff, we'd have ND people wanting to get rid of Kirby and Saban in 2016 and 2007, respectively. Saban went 7-6 his first year at Alabama, and it wasn't his first head coaching job. Oh my God, fire him. The other thing is, all of these circumstances are so different. So different, depending on where you're at, how it's built out. Like, all of these programs operate so differently. Different ways. All right, here's what I'm going to do as I bring up these next calls. Check this out, you guys. I want you to look at this while I'm bringing up these phone calls. How do I get rid of that? Look at this. This came from Jay Carr in the chat, and it is always Irish bingo. Nuance gets mad at the White Sox, mentions hairline, deuce anxiety, camera freezes. Year 1, game 1 versus year 3, game 1. Yells at Commander Kent, Andrew, or SPF, and here we already are today. Nothing's ever normal with Notre Dame. A lot of respect for Elko. 10 guys on the field. Phone issues. Pepto-Bismol. Marcus Freeman relationships. It's spot on. Follow me here. I say that 80 times a day. Brian Kelly, the wine and cheese. Let me do the introduction, which I never got to, by the way. I never got to the introduction today. Players with John's body type. That might be my favorite one. The players with John's body type might be my favorite one because it's just me making fun of myself. Going on a food tangent. Always good to have a Rudiger, RKG. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's so funny. 385-917, first 2 up. What's going on, man?
Hey, Johnny, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. I'm fine, man. It's just everybody's coming at this project with a different starting point, man.
Right. I'm going through Canyon, so I'm gonna make my point, and I'm gonna let everybody get to theirs. And I'm with you, and I'm with Luke as far as like no more excuses, man. You guys gotta get focused, gotta have confidence, gotta go in there and punch everybody in the mouth. This is Notre Dame, I agree with that. Second, with that being said, you was at the campus, man. You know how it is. Hey, man, honestly, it's a beautiful place, a wonderful place. Amazing people, probably some of the best in the world there, man. You know what I mean? That's what draws people to Notre Dame. With that being said, with Andrew saying, oh, break the rules, he's the type to be like, oh, well, I guess he should not broke the rules then. But, oh, if he didn't get caught, Kelly broke the rules. Right? He got caught, but that was okay. But if Freeman was to break the rules, he'd be like, oh, he should not break the rules. I already know those type of people. I know how they are. Second, let me tell you something. I live here in Utah, like you know that already, okay? I'm going to make 2 points on that. I have a friend, a very close friend, that used to back me up in high school that ended up playing for BYU, who happens to be the athletic director for the football team under Tom Homo. You know what he told Kalani Sitake? And I can say this, I'm not going to tell you his name, but somebody, hey, man, you can't bring in these kids that don't fit in our institution academically. You're going to fail, man. And then you fail these kids. And then you're lying to these parents. And what does that say about our university? So he can shove those comments up his behind, man, with breaking the rules. And if I'm getting lit up on the chat, then I'm getting lit up on the chat. But you
You can't bring in kids like that, man. And this is a former D1 player at BYU telling the head coach, you can't bring in players that don't fit to the institution. They're going to fail here, man. You know what I mean? And then they're going to get backlash. So, Freeman is doing a good thing. And then Freeman is doing a good thing, man, right here at the campus. And people need to see, and those are the topics that these dudes that are just like, oh, win, drink beer on Saturday, don't see what really goes in. Obviously, is named after a donor now, right? When they announced, if there was announced John Kennedy, the tennis coach, they'd be, the Johnson so-and-so, John Kennedy, so-and-so tennis coach. That means they got to answer to those boosters. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where the real money comes in. I mean, granted, hey, bro, we're the Subway alumni, and we should be respected and appreciated just as much. But we don't have $20 million to give to build that new building. We don't. B100, we don't.
Yeah.
80,000 of us do combined. Second, the reason why Urban Meyer won here, was because, Ron McBride had a good group of dudes in the late 80s into the 90s, going into maybe the early 2000s, that started finally building that tradition here. And then that's when they started getting even more money for the football team. But the reason why he won here was because he had a good group of guys, man, that comes around every so often. I mean, these dudes, you could have put them up against any team in the country, and they would have won. In high school, they were Morgan Scally, Jason Kafusi, Suena Boha. Them dudes, man, they were beasts, man. Alex Smith. But that comes once in a lifetime, man. We get that all the time at Notre Dame. But the thing is, too, the University of Utah isn't the institution what BYU or Notre Dame is, man. Where you can just say, hey, man, you got a 2.0. You're on a basically on a senior reading level. Come into our institution. You can't do that, man. You can't do that here. You know what I mean? And so my point to those things, Johnny, is that you made excuses in your episode, and I'm not going to make excuses for him. I agree with Luke as far as like, hey, I'm old school. That's why I stopped coaching. Because I tell the kid, hey, man, unless you're shitting, pissing, and throwing up on yourself, you better get the fuck up and go to class and get to practice. I don't give a shit if your tummy hurts. Like, really, that's how I used to coach. But I can't coach like that anymore. So I left. So I understand the dynamic that's in place now. And should I be arrested? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think doing a great job of adapting to what's going on. And I'm going to say this, man, and people in the chat can get a little upset. I really don't care, man. A lot of them are quick, like with the recruits, like with Joan Bettis' kid. Oh, we hear he's not that good. Oh, this and that. Hey, but he's legacy, though, right? But CJ Carr is the greatest thing because he's a legacy. These are the type of people that I feel Andrew and Commander are, man. And they can read between the lines in what I'm saying. I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't want to get cut off or have your show cut off. But you can read between the lines what I'm saying. The same people that sit there and criticize Jerome Bettis' son and saying that, oh, he's only in because of the legacy. Same ones that say, oh, we got Lloyd Carr. He's got his pedigree. So does Jerome Bettis' son on me. But you're not quick to talk good about him. So, yeah. Sorry, Johnny. Sorry.
Hey, I'm glad you got that out, man. Doesn't it feel good? Let it rip. Let it fly, brother. And listen, I totally understand. Like, I think all these people that are here every day, we all want the same thing. We want Notre Dame to be really, really good at football and be elite and all that stuff. I just think the way you think about it and the route you go to get to it is a big part of the discussion. And that's where I spend a lot of time existing, because I have so many months in the offseason to think about all this stuff. There is no games to react to. So I'm going to look at the big picture stuff, the stuff behind the scenes, the stuff that goes into building all of what you see on the field, because that's the offseason. So I don't know, man. Maybe we should just all rejoin in August 31st, and we'll just see if we win or not. And there's no nuance, no talking about what got us there, what's coming next. Just those 4 hours is all that matters, man. You're missing 95% of the sport if you look at it that way.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And John, like I've told you before, man, like, the reason why I appreciate you and your show so bad, man, because you point out all these things. You gave your opinion on your show about what he needs to do, of the 3 things that he needs to do. You know what I mean? From what happened bad in his early career. You know what I mean? And I seen people blowing you up about it. I'm like, man. For me, I approach the view on a different way, Johnny, because you know why, man? Like, I've been on a whole different side of the ball, man, when it comes to society, man. And what he's doing, you know, at that university, and what you're doing for this show, man, like, you know, like my hat off to how hard you guys work, man. I can't imagine, you know, how hard it was for you to hurry up, do the show, man. You know, keep everybody happy, run and enjoy the university, man. Come back and do all your thing, man. So, you know what I mean? Like, my hat off, and that's the things that are important to me, man. I want to win just like the next man. You know, I agree with Luke as far as the boot camp style thing, man. I'm sorry, I'm trying to stay focused on the road, but I think that everybody's jumping the gun too much on, oh, he needs to hurry up and do this, or this is going bad, that. And we're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine going into College Station. We're going to be just fine going into the season. We got some big-time players. We got Rubio back. We got that kid from Duke. We got Mills. We got Cross. We got the best defense in the country. You know, no one's talking about that. We got KVA. Hey, watch, KVA is going to play right away, man. He is. Them polys are built different. Remember, I grew up with these. You know what I mean? And so, but Johnny, I'm not going to take up too much more time, buddy.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
thanks.
Like I said,
Thanks for the call. I really appreciate the call. I appreciate the $5 holler, man, in the kind words. Thanks, man. Drive safely.
I remember Notre Dame, but he's here.
Have a good one. He's on the road again. Can't hear 917. You're coming up 574-707, and we'll wrap it up. Kent, here's the thing, man. And this is it's not a respect or disrespect or anything at all. I like Kent being here. It's healthy to have people from other fan bases in the show. That's very healthy. There are a lot of things Kent says that just, it's obvious he doesn't come from like a Notre Dame framework of football in Notre Dame land. Like, there's so many things Kent says that make sense for like college football, but you got to understand the Notre Dame-ness of a situation to know why it's more complicated than that, right? Like there's just so much, and I don't mean that like, oh, you're in the group and you're out of the group or whatever, but there's so many things that on the surface make perfect football sense, but I can't tell Kent how Notre Dame's different, not better, not worse, different. And understand all of the things that go into it. There's a lot of nuance. There we go. Nuance. Check it off. Check it off the bingo board. Oh, man. We all want Notre Dame to win and win big. We all do. I think it's just a debate of how we're going to get there, how we're going to travel there. And we can all debate that till the cows come home. For me, I'm a strong believer. I'm a firm believer in this. The only coaches that have succeeded at Notre Dame had a genuine love for the place, put their ego number 2 to the Golden Dome and that purpose, and did what you need to do. And I want to see that happen here. But man, today is frustrating. I'm frustrated like you guys are with some of the frustrations of the early Freeman era and all that, but I also see all these things on the good side trending up, but we're not there to where it's proven out yet. I mean, I woke up and logged in here and I had people saying, I mean, if Freeman, if he doesn't beat A&M, he needs to go. Like, that's just not reality. That's not going to happen. I literally woke up and had messages on here. If he doesn't beat A&M, he's out. That's it. Okay, gotta go. That is not a reality. Like, that's not in the car. That's not on the books. It ain't gonna happen. Even if they lose. 917. Bring me to heaven. What's going on?
Hi, John. It's Pat from West Palm. Can you hear me?
I can. You guys doing okay? You get all that rain down there, man? I know there's a ton of rain last week. Are you above water?
Yeah. No, there was a lot of rain a little bit south of me. But no, it was, hyped up by the media doom and gloom crowd. But it was, we get rain here.
Yeah.
It's South Florida. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I know you've been holding for a long time. I'm sorry it took me a while to get to you. I would love to know any thoughts you have on the kind of the topic of the day or anything else in your mind.
yeah, the topic of the day, I think the fairest thing to say about Marcus Freeman is that we at Notre Dame might win a championship with this guy. With Brian Kelly, we were not going to win a championship. Kelly had 12 chances. He went 0 for 12. Forget about him. We're better off with Freeman than we are with Kelly because Kelly was never going to win. I think that issue's over.
That has been one of my main pillars of debate on some of this has been that angle where I would say Kelly wasn't changing the way he was operating at all. He was not changing and adjusting the recruiting and realizing things need to be different. It had leveled off. And then you did year after year and you would get the same results. I am with you. 100% you weren't getting over the hump with Kelly. Here, you may or you may not, but at least there's a chance because you're trying to modernize and do things different. I'm with you on that. And you know who else agrees with us? Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly agrees with us. That's why he left, because he knew it wasn't going to work and he wasn't going to change it either. So Brian Kelly agrees with us too.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly's just a born loser. And I think LSU is going to tire of him in a couple of years. But, we'll see. I'm tired of even thinking about Brian Kelly, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It just puts me in a bad mood to think about that man. But I will say this. You could believe what I just said, that we're better off with Freeman, and also believe what I'm about to say, which is Marcus Freeman has done a poor job his first 2 years. He just has, and we can go through it. But I still think that, to me, Notre Dame football is kind of like, a patient going into a doctor, and telling the doctor, look, doctor, I puked last night, I got the fever today, and I got diarrhea. And the doctor's saying to himself, either this person has a 24-hour flu and will be strong, this weekend, or the person's got malaria. It's too early to tell. We got to take more data points. We got to run more tests. And that's kind of where we are with.
Man, that is, I like this. I like this.
This is an incomplete data set we're working with. You can't make a diagnosis on Freeman just yet.
But see, a lot of people are, though. A lot of people are. They're already like, this is not going well, unacceptable records, what it's been. But even with these frustrations we have with Marshall and Stanford and the 10-man thing in Louisville and Clemson last year, whatever, the guy still has as many wins as any coach in the first 2 years in charge at Notre Dame of anybody. But that's like forgotten or not good enough. Like, it could have been better. But is it all relative? Is it all relative to wherever you want to compare it to? It's relative to, and the bar moves depending on who you are and what angle you want to prove.
Look, I'll quibble a little bit in that. I've heard it said by some. I'm not sure you were one of the people who said that. That the cupboard was bare in 2022, and I do disagree with that because, if you look at the draft from the spring of 2022, I think we only had 2 guys drafted that year. I think that's right. And if that's the case, that's not a lot of loss talent. So I do think Freeman had his fair share of talent.
But is there a flip side to that? You could say that's not a loss of talent, and then I could flip it and go, yeah, maybe that's the problem. You didn't have good enough guys on that team that were going pro. You could flip it, and the quarterback. Isn't that the quarterback a big deal too? When people say Freeman inherited a playoff team his first year, whatever, dude, you didn't have a quarterback Freeman was in year one as a head coach, and you were running a guy out there and hoping it all worked out against Ohio State. That's a rough way to start. It's hard for me to say I love the roster when you're starting a quarterback and no one has any idea if he could be good or not. That's not stability.
Yeah, I know. Look, in fairness to Freeman, recruiting misses at the quarterback position can set your program way back.
Yeah.
Like, I go back to like Dane Christ, nice guy and all.
Ooh.
But, him coming in the class immediately following Clausen as a 5-star that no one saw play, right? No one saw play at the college level for the first couple of years, chased away good quarterback recruits. And it really did a number on Kelly's first couple of years. And, I hate Kelly, but I do think he was dealt a bad hand in the quarterback room. And I think you're right. I think that the Buckner recruiting miss at the quarterback position set the whole program back. It just did. I mean, there's no arguing with that. And that's not really on Freeman. But that said, Freeman had enough talent to do better than 4 losses his first season, and he didn't get there. So all that said, the jury's still out on Marcus Freeman. I'm cheering for him. I think we have a chance at winning with this guy. We had no chance 3 years ago.
That's how I see it too. That's how I see it too.
We're much better than we used to be.
And here's the other thing, man. And again, I struggle with this. People are always going to want better recruiting. I always want better recruiting, more 5-star. We all agree with that. But I honestly see this roster getting deeper and more athletic and longer and having more guys that have the potential to be able to play and contribute early in their Notre Dame careers on the field. Like, I see that changing a lot. Is it perfect? No. Do we have enough bona fide 5-stars and wide receivers all over that we all want? No, we don't. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying I'm seeing a lot of movement in terms of the athletes Notre Dame's bringing into this program. And that is new, and I approve of it, and I want to see it on the field, but that is encouraging to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't follow recruiting as much as other people, so I'll take the word of people who know more about this stuff that we are bringing in, some good players. I am a little bit, what's the word? I'm a little bit troubled by all the legacies.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because there's 2 types of legacies. Some kids are really good players, and you want that DNA right on your roster.
Yep.
Other kids are brought in for the PR aspect of it, and I don't know who's who. Again, I don't know enough about recruiting. It just seems, and I just take a glance at the rankings, and you see some kids who are way down the list that no one else seems to have wanted, and yet we're giving them scholarship offers, and it's kind of a shame. I wish we would give those kinds of kids, the Bon Jovi treatment and give them, preferred walk-on status rather than a scholarship. You know what I mean? Because they're the sons of NFLers, so their families aren't hard up for cash. And B, they're taking a scholarship offer away from perhaps a less well-known player that could use the scholarship, and the team could use a player like that.
Yeah,
so,
and
again,
I do, and
I'm
open to seeing how that plays out with some of these guys. I think that's a fair worry to be like, are we doing this for all the right competitive reasons, or and I think the jury's still out on some of that. And I'm with you on that one. And I just, man, the more I think about it, the more this year is such an important year. And that week 1 is so important. It is just, we need answers. Don't you feel that way? Like we're 2 years in, we kind of had our patience, and we're getting this thing going. I think that's a part of this, man. Everyone that loves Notre Dame, you just want answers. What's the next thing going to be? What are the realities of this? I think that's the moment we're in this summer, is we want answers, and we just can't have them yet.
Yeah, I don't put the emphasis so much on the first game, only because, 2 reasons. First, if we go 11-1, let's just say, and the one loss was to AM, but we beat Florida State and USC, I would be happier with that.
Yeah.
Than beating A&M, but
here's the problem. I think the problem is that people are figuring if you lose to A&M, you're likely to lose a couple more games too if you can't survive that moment. And that may or may not be fair thinking. There is a lot of a week one random inheritance to week one games. Like you could certainly get a lot better and not lose it. But I think that's where that comes from, is the idea of if you're going to lose week one, you're probably going to lose a couple more down the road too. And I think that's in people's heads.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The only thing I would say to that is, well, two things. Ever since Notre Dame got its conditioning program where it needed to be, and that happened about 5-6 years ago, you didn't see the late season drop-offs like you used to see.
Yeah.
But I will say also, as far as early season, and again, I think you and I have talked about this in the past, SEC teams practice 12 hours a day, and that makes a much bigger impact the first game of the season than it does going forward. So what I'm saying is you can drop the first game, and your team will, from a practice perspective, catch up in a relative sense to the other teams on your schedule. So I'm not sure that the first game is diagnostic, so to speak, of how good your team is, especially because Notre Dame doesn't follow the same practice regimen that the SEC schools follow.
Yeah, it's I'm telling you what, man, Notre Dame land is complicated. It is complicated to be able to figure this all out. I mean, and now I'm getting called a Freeman sexual here. Like, I'm sorry. I like the way the guy works. I like his work ethic. I like the way he treats people. That's a big deal to me, and it's a big deal to Notre Dame. I just think that's a really good starting point here, and people just don't agree with me, and that's fine. That's fine.
Well, I think, John, what you'd see is older fans remember Charlie Weiss, who, putting the personal appearances of each of them to the side, Charlie Weiss loved Notre Dame too. He was at all the other sports games, for the basketball team, all the other stuff. Charlie Weiss worked his ass off. Everyone agreed with that. And Charlie Weiss failed, whereas younger fans who don't remember Charlie Weiss, this is all new to them because their only comparison is Brian Kelly. But older fans, I think, who remember Weiss are the ones more fearful that Freeman will fail.
Yeah, it's oh man, complicated stuff. So I don't know, man. This is we need answers. We need answers, and I'm hoping this year 3 can provide some. Anything else, my friend? Thanks for calling me from the beach.
No, thanks for taking the call. Love the show. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man. Take care. Give me a call again. Crystal clear phone line there from Florida. It was nice. Man, I wonder if, do you guys think that other fan bases go through this to the extent we do, where everybody wants the team to win, but no one can agree on the path to get there, or if it's going the right way, or if the right guy's still around? Like, that's a genuine question. Or is that a uniquely Notre Dame thing? I'm not around other fan bases enough to know if they have the same discussions we do, or if it's just they're all on the same page and then everybody else is a hater from the outside. I just don't know. I don't know. Weiss's nose ran better than our running backs. It always bothered me that guy had a runny nose. I'm not going to lie, it bothered me. Just between the aesthetic of his body and blowing his nose all the time, it's just like the opposite impression I want everybody to get of Notre Dame football, and that guy's the face of it. And again, you could say it doesn't matter if he's 500 pounds, but you win all your games, you're going to love him or whatever. That's fine. It just bothered me, man. Blowing your nose. And you know what else? I'm convinced Adidas made crappy fitting clothing to match his body frame when we were there. I swear to God, when he was there, Adidas, the clothier for Notre Dame, made the worst clothes They didn't fit right. They were all like wide fit, bro. I hated it. The sleeves on a polo come down to here. I'm serious. It's like everybody got the big and tall line. Horrible. Horrific. 574, what's going on?
How's it going?
A little bit stressful, to be honest with you today, man. Nobody can agree on how to get Notre Dame where we want to be.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what everyone was saying, because to be honest, if we end up like or something, so that would mean that we would have to probably win the rest of our games, which that's tough to do.
Yeah, that's the problem. Everybody, you want to go 11-1 and host that playoff game? Yeah, well, the road to 11-1 is a lot harder if you lose the first one.
Right. Yeah. Well, overall, I'm really confident, in the the quarterback room, and I think we're starting to get that rolling now. And obviously, the wide receiver room, I think, is looking pretty good. So I like where things are going. I just gotta. I'm more about I have to see it. I have to see it to believe it, I guess.
So do you
I
believe?
gotta pay off.
I mean, you're saying all the easy things. I got to ask you the tough questions. Do you believe that I build in too many excuses for Freeman to justify the struggles he's had so far? Or do you understand what I'm trying to say? Or do you think I'm building excuses for him that I wouldn't somebody else? What's your take on that?
Oh no, I understand what you're trying to say, because you're basically saying that because everyone basically was giving Brian Kelly a pass, but then everybody wants Marcus Freeman out within 2 years, So I completely agree with you. I think you give a coach at least sometimes 5 years at most, or even 6, because you still got to get, I guess, his recruits in there fully. But they're starting to, his recruits are starting to roll in now. So, other than that, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Everyone was giving Brian Kelly a pass, but all of a sudden now Marcus Freeman, they want him fired after 2 years.
Yeah, I struggle. I do struggle with that. Because there's a track you're on when you hired this guy. Man, there was always going to be that run up. Everybody should have known that. It was just built. It didn't even need to be spoken that they were going to give the guy a run up. But I get it. You got to start winning on the field, and it all starts on May 31st or August 31st. You got to win it.
Yep, I think it's a must-win, honestly, because I think that if they lose that game, that could set the tone for the whole season, really. So I don't, like you were saying, I don't really care what the score is. I don't care what the score is. All I care about is that we go in there and win. And even if it's by a field goal or a touchdown, doesn't matter. Just go in there, and find a way to win. That's all I really care about. And yeah, I think that game is really gonna, set the tone for the whole season, especially if they lose. Because again, if they lose that game, then they'd have to win the rest of their games, and that's not easy to do, because they do got Florida State, which I think Florida State is gonna. I don't know how good they're gonna be this year, but obviously I just think the schedule, I think it's favorable, this year. Not as it's more spread out, compared to last year,
It's spaced. The spacing of it is way more favorable for Notre Dame. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with everyone though. I think that the playoffs expanded now. I think this is time, to finally get into, the playoffs and win like a first round game or, round games,
Yeah, it's
that we haven't done in a long time.
Yeah, it's time to deliver. I'm with everyone on that. This is a year that has to be a good year. You have to make the playoff to show progress, or it is a major, major red flag. I'm with everybody on that. I'm not saying you could go to the Pinstripe Bowl here and then it's a good year or whatever. Like, I'm with everybody. You got to get better results this year. Back off. I'm with you. I agree with you. I'm with you. Anything else, my friend? Thanks for giving me a call.
No, all I gotta say is that I just feel confident, I guess, in the quarterback room and obviously the wide receiver room.
Buddy,
Let's go Irish.
Yeah, you're cutting out. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but you're cutting out. All right, I only got time for one more. We have a bunch of callers. I don't know what it is today, but it's going to be Andrew, just so if I misrepresented his argument, we can go over it real quick. Sorry to the other people. I don't know why everybody's so interested in calling today, but let's do that the last few minutes. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's up, John? How are you, man?
Good. All right. I don't want to misrepresent any of your positions. So if there's anything you think I misrepresented, feel free to let me know what it is.
Cool. Well, first off, hey, I hope you don't take any of my criticism, to heart or anything like that. It's, I do appreciate you're the only person in Notre Dame land that, is even willing to entertain criticism. So I really appreciate the opportunity. So I do want to say that first. But,
I do. Yeah, I appreciate that. And that is a give and a take and good and bad. But I want to give all you guys a voice and everybody a chance to say what they think, whatever. I like doing all that. Dude, Andrew, I just didn't think I'm coming up with a summer content here when there ain't nothing going on. And I'm like, how can we learn? How can we learn from some of the dumb shit that's happened to be in a better place? I thought it was a pretty harmless episode. And then I wake up and I got all this pushback on it.
Well, hey, it means you're doing something right, though. I think you should take it like that. So, because you definitely got me going. But I guess here's when I said that I think my argument's being misconstrued, I think it is, definitely. I'm not suggesting that Freeman has to get the same exact results as Kirby Smart, or you brought up an example of like Nick Saban going 7-6 in year one. That's not what I'm saying. It's the premise of the video that he's on a learning curve. And when I hear learning curves, I think that's really a different way of saying inexperience. That due to inexperience, things happened and blah, 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 blah. And I just think that, and maybe I'm totally way off base here, but I do not think inexperience is an acceptable excuse or it's just acceptable at all in any regard when it comes to being the head coach at Notre Dame. If this guy's the head coach, if he's working his way up, and he's a first-time head coach of a Mountain West school, or a 1AA school, maybe I can hear that because it's not as serious, at those places. I know that they have fan bases. Heck, I'm a fan of San Diego State, but I can realize that the terms of the game aren't as serious. But when it comes to Notre Dame, Notre Dame to me, if I had to make a comparison, it's like running a Fortune 500 company. And I just think about if I was a investor in GE or IBM or something like that, and they hired a CEO, and the first 2 years of that CEO's tenure wasn't quite as good as people thought it should be, and people were trying to say it was due to lack of experience from the CEO. I don't think a shareholder would say that that's an acceptable reason. So I think that that's just not acceptable. I mean, maybe that's the case. He is inexperienced, but why is Notre Dame hiring inexperienced coaches then? So that was the main crux of my pushback. And then when I mentioned Kirby Smart, Urban Meyer, Chip Kelly, and then, even Mike Elko. These are first-time head coaches, and whether they all had sort of varying results in their first year, but I never, and maybe I wasn't following their careers closely enough, but I never heard people say, hey, he could have had a better year, or he was on a learning curve. My argument is that these are first-time head coaches who took the reins, and there was no question about whether or not they were experienced or not. They came to the job and did it at a high level immediately. They're in total control. And for us to even be worried about Marcus Freeman's inexperience, I think is a problem.
Let me ask this.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. Did you honestly think Freeman was going to get that ed job and there would be no evidence of like a learning lesson or like him feeling his way through how to do things as the head coach for the first time in his life? Like, did you really think that was realistic, that you were getting a finished, polished product right off the bat? Like, you're a smart guy. I refuse to think that you thought, oh, we're getting a finished, polished product right away, and there's going to be no hiccups, and he's going to know exactly the right way to navigate and handle everything, and we're off to the races. There's no way you could have thought that. You're a really smart guy, and you like football. How could you think that that was going to be the case?
I think you're right. I did think there was probably going to be a learning curve, and that's why I wouldn't have hired him. But but hey, he's the coach. I'll support him. But where I'm coming from is, if you have experienced people that you could have hired for the position, then why are we letting inexperience be an excuse for underachieving? You're hiring him because you think that he can overcome said inexperience, and that inexperience isn't going to apply to him. I mean, isn't that like what the thought process would be? Is that whatever? I don't know. I think that's where I'm coming from. Why did you hire a guy who was inexperienced?
So
there definitely were qualified candidates out there who had the experience.
So then I think we need to look at,
because what's happening. Just let me finish. What's happening is sort of my fear is that I felt like, hey, his inexperience could be a major issue for the job. So that's why I'm not using it as a way to excuse not hitting results, because this is sort of what I feared.
Yeah, the way I looked at it was, when he got this job, that I always thought there was going to be some kind of learning curve, and you're doing it in the brightest lights there could be, and that's a lot of risk, and everything that happens is going to be magnified. But I looked at it as, Notre Dame must see enough things in the positive category to make it worth signing up for whatever that learning process and feeling out process was going to be, that there was enough on the positive end of what Freeman brought that it would be worth it to maybe go through that for a little while. That's the way I look at it. Like the relationship building and the energy to recruit and do all that kind of stuff. They really liked that. And they thought that would be, those benefits outweighed any negatives that would come with Freeman making rookie coaching mistakes or whatever.
I think everything that you're saying is totally fair. I guess where I'm coming from is to counterbalance a lot of the happy talk with Freeman, because I think that the inexperience cannot be glossed over. I think that the in-game and week-to-week coaching cannot be glossed over. And and for that matter, I think some of the major attributes that people talk about with Freeman can't be glossed over. So, like, there's a lot of good things to like about what Marcus Freeman is doing from a recruiting perspective, but then there's real question marks too. Do you disagree with that? And I think I bring up the wide receiver room as one thing that if there was one room truly, because remember when he took over the job, I think that people thought maybe the quarterback room was in okay shape. We found out it wasn't, but a lot of people had a lot of faith in Buckner. So did Freeman. I mean, that's why he went with Buckner year one. But I don't think anybody, both inside the program or outside the program, thought that the wide receiver room was in any shape that it should have been. I mean, that's where he really inherited. And I think that, 3 years in, I think it's still a major question mark. So I think if that doesn't get improved, mean, how are we going to see all the benefits of Mike Denbrock? I mean, part of the reason why Mike Denbrock is the most successful offensive coordinator right now in college football is he had 2 frontline, first-round quality wide receivers last year. Running go routes for LSU. I mean, I just think that's a major issue that can't be glossed over. And I think that how he's played the portal, I think has been there's some major question marks. Would you not agree with that? I mean, why didn't he bring in? He brought in the 2 wide receivers this year. Why didn't he bring in the 2 wide receivers last year? And then I would say that a major question mark is, and I think it's going to define Notre Dame's season, is I'm a big supporter of Riley Leonard. I called in and I said, hey, Riley Leonard looks really good. But I'm talking about 100% healthy Riley Leonard. And so I think that there's some real questions that need to be asked. What if Riley Leonard is not 100% when we kick off against Texas A&M? Or what if he's easily injured? Has Marcus Freeman mismanaged the portal again by getting a quarterback who is chronically injured? So I think my pushback is just to counterbalance some of this stuff. I think inexperience really is not a justifiable excuse for a Notre Dame coach. I think that he's doing a really good job in recruiting, but there are still some really major question marks as it comes to what he's doing to address the wide receiver room and other things too. I think defensive end is another thing that we need to be talking about. And then I think, so I don't know. Do you see where I'm going? I just think that there's a lot of question marks that need to be discussed as well.
I'm with you. We could discuss question marks all you want. Like, I'm with you, but okay, here's a question, Andrew. This experience is not an excuse to, fall short or whatever. Fine. What was Kelly's excuse? After 40 years of doing it, 12 in Notre Dame and having 1 blowout in every single year. Like, you don't want Freeman to use inexperience as an excuse to fall short of expectations. What were the reasons that everybody gave Brian Kelly to have 1 blowout a year and never change anything at Notre Dame? Like, are you further ahead with that guy doing it the same way, getting the same result every year? Or maybe a younger guy that's doing something different? Which would you prefer? The consistency of Kelly, but you're never winning anything that matters ever, or maybe trying to do it a different way now? What was his excuse?
Right.
Freeman doesn't get the inexperience excuse for bad things happening. Kelly never even had that as an excuse. So what's his excuse?
Well, I would just say who's making excuses for Kelly. I mean, I think me and you talked about this many times. I think the first time me and you started interacting was how laughable it was when Notre Dame was trying to run the clock out in the second half against Alabama in the final. So, I mean, this is not a, Andrew Gilmore believes, Brian Kelly could do no wrong type situation. But I do think it's something to be said that, and a real question to be asked, is the program sliding backward or not? I mean, I think is that not a legitimate question to ask? I mean, he did set a standard in his last 3 or 4 years as the coach that Notre Dame's going to be in the top 10 conversation every single year. So far,
the definitions matter here, though. The definitions matter. Here's how I look at it. Yeah, I agree with you. Kelly had Notre Dame cooking to where it's a top 10 team every year. Perfect. You were never winning anything that matters. Can we both agree with that? He refused to change the way you recruited. There was a glass ceiling where even if you won 12-0, you're going to get your head kicked in the next game. Like, we saw that enough times with Kelly. We saw it enough times to know you were never going to get a different result the way we were doing things. Like, so you could be a consistent top 10 team, but you're never going to win anything. Is that good enough for you? You could say Kelly had us in the top 10, but you have no chance of winning the playoff or winning a playoff game. You have 1 blowout a year every year, even in a year you went undefeated in the regular season, ended in a blowout. Nowhere near where you needed to be. And that's what you're leaning on as the positive. Now there's more instability. And you're not exactly sure where we're going to fall. But there's at least an angle to make it better on the high end. I would rather take that risk. It doesn't do me any good to win a second tier bowl game, but say we're a top 10 team every year. That's not what I'm going after.
Well, just to push back a little bit, if you're asking me if I was satisfied with the overall result of Brian Kelly, the answer is absolutely not. You're not going to get an argument with me.
You just made that argument. You just made the argument defending Kelly. He had us a top 10 team every year. That was your crutch against Freeman. But then now you're on my side saying, well, yeah, we really didn't get over that.
I didn't say I was on your side. I said, yeah, I'm not satisfied with just being a top 10 team. But
well, then don't use don't use that as a knock against Freeman and for Kelly. If what Kelly did really wasn't good enough for you, you got to stand by that. It either is or it isn't. It either is or it isn't.
Well,
but
you're saying is, has Freeman in the first 2 years been a top 10 team? The answer is no. They have not been a top 10 team though. So the program is sliding in the wrong direction. That was my point. That's the first point. And then, like, you want to make this into a Kelly versus Freeman thing. We can do that, but I'm focusing in on Freeman. The program has not been as good as Kelly's the first 2 years. Maybe things are going to change, but it hasn't. It objectively has not been. As good.
You open to Are you open to the idea that there was some aspect of you need to kind of tear things down a little more before you can build them back up the right way? Are you open to that? Are you open to that at all, to where Freeman gets in there and then you realize that there's a lot more that needs to be redone with this staff and this roster to get it where we need it to be? And maybe there's that one step back to end up a few forward, but it's going to be painful in the middle. Are you open to that at all? Or do you just think that's another excuse to lose?
I'm open to the idea that the preseason ranking that Marcus Freeman got and Notre Dame got his first year he took over set unrealistic expectations for the team he had. But I am not open to the fact that this was like a rebuild project. And in fact, I'm especially not open to that fact, being that we're in the portal world. You know, if this was 2015 or something like that, when Marcus Freeman took over, where your team is pretty much set and you got to win with what you have, then I would say, yeah, absolutely. Then I think Marcus Freeman probably did have to do like a rebuild because he had to bring in new young talent to replace. But I mean, in the era of the portal, you can, when you have a hole on your team, you can immediately fill that hole with veteran talent. And as far as I'm concerned, when Marcus Freeman took over in 2022, the portal existed. Now, if we're going to say that Notre Dame didn't let him bring in any portal guys, then I'd be open to that argument. But if he could have used the portal, which I think he said that he could have, but he stayed pat with what he had. At what point do you say that that's on Freeman and it's not really on Kelly? I mean, he inherited some good bones. He inherited a pretty good defense from Brian Kelly. He inherited a really good offensive line, maybe one of the best offensive lines that you can possibly inherit from any coach. I just think he needed to fill in some of the holes. There's obviously holes at wide receiver, and I think he made a strategic mistake by letting Tommy Rees convince him that Tyler Buckner was the guy. I mean, how is that Brian Kelly's fault?
I'm just, man, sometimes I can't. It's like a moving target and the measurements are all moving and it's like hard to, like you say the program was trending the wrong way, but I don't see it that way. But I think I'm counting and measuring a lot of things that are more than just like win and loss on the record this year. When I'm looking at, like, I'm zooming out, looking at like a checklist of like a bunch of different things that are all trending up, and under Kelly, they were trending down. And I'm figuring stay the course, get through this, and you're going to have way brighter days on the other side. Because when you got all those other things lined up the right way, it's got to break through on the field eventually, right? That's kind of the way I'm seeing it. And if it doesn't, then you get rid of Freeman. But you got to get all those behind the scenes things all working for you to give yourself a real shot for this to have different results than it did for Kelly.
I hear what you're saying, and I want to clarify one thing though. I've never once said, have I ever called and said they should fire Marcus Freeman? I said that I wouldn't have hired him in the first place, but I never said he should be fired. I've always been I think I'm fair to Marcus Freeman. I think that there's a lot of good things you can say he's doing. I'm just somebody who believes that you should be talking about the question marks too. I mean, that's all I've ever said. And I don't think this is a Marcus Freeman versus Brian Kelly thing. I think to your point, Brian Kelly, was going to have a hard time winning a national championship. Although I mean, if I have to push back, I will. In that Marcus Freeman or Brian Kelly did deserve credit for bringing in guys like Mike Mickens. He brought in Marcus Freeman. He brought in Mike Elko. He brought in Clark Lee. I think there was some changes that he was making in the program. I'm not saying that would necessarily would have resulted in a national championship, but I think we look at Brian Kelly's career at Notre Dame in totality, his whole 11-year career. I think there was a stark difference between Brian Kelly pre-2016 and Brian Kelly post-2016. But that's not really the point of my call. The point of my call is that for all the good things that Marcus Freeman is doing when it comes to recruiting, I think there are equally questions that need to be asked. And his inexperience is not an excuse for failure. That's number one. And that I think it's important for us to bring up the stuff that could potentially derail the season. And I outlined that, poor wide receiver room play, potentially injured quarterback. That's on Freeman. And so, yeah, I just feel like there should be a counterbalance to saying that things are all going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I agree with you with those question marks, though. But again, maybe some of this depends on what you're looking at and what you choose to focus on or weight more than other things. And maybe that's where I have a disconnect from a lot of people, the way I weight so many off the field things that I think about all the time that are involved in this mix. So I don't know, Andrew. It's frustrating. I know we all want the same result. We just have sometimes it just...
I guess
Andrew, let me ask you this. Let me ask you one thing, and then you wrap up with yours, and then we'll get out of here. Do you think it's wrong that I value Freeman's communication skills, work ethic, and the way he treats people the way I do? Do you think that that is wrong for me to really value and appreciate those things, specifically when it comes to running Notre Dame, because I know how important they are? Those are the big things, Andrew, that do give me a little more leeway and a little more patience for Freeman's process, because he's trying hard and he's treating people the right way, and those things matter to me.
It's not wrong, you know what I mean? It's everybody's got their own preference.
But am I overweighing that? Am I overvaluing those aspects?
Well, I guess my question to you is, and this is coming from somebody whose favorite, and hopefully people take this the right way. My favorite college football coach, maybe of all time, is Pete Carroll. Even though he was USC's coach, I always respected how he was a nice guy. His players really liked playing for him, and it was really competitive. So I like the framework that you're setting up. But my retort back to you is, who's a bigger dick than Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and Bill Parcells? I can name Bob Knight. I can name all these people who mistreated the press, who at times mistreated players, and they got results. So I just think at the end of the day, how you act.
Yeah, but none of those places is Notre Dame, Andrew. None of those places is Notre Dame. You can't act the way you can't. You just can't.
People have these. Go ahead.
That's the issue too. There has to be in this discussion an acknowledgement of just how different Notre Dame is and the unique way you got to navigate Notre Dame. It's just different. And there's certain things you're not going to be able to get away with at Notre Dame. You could other places. That's a big part of this to me too.
Yeah, I just think I would even mention Lou Holtz. I mean, because I think we have this caricature in our head now based off of, Lou Holtz post Notre Dame tenure, you know, like mainly his like goofing around on ESPN, like how he's this good natured guy who does like magic tricks and stuff like that. I think if you really think back to the Lou Holtz era, he was extreme. He was almost controversial in terms of how hard he, worked the players. And remember, he used to grab guys by the face mask.
Yeah,
he was somewhat controversial guy. And I think that we've sort of, with nostalgia, have repainted that. So, yeah, I think listen, does being nice, build some goodwill? Absolutely. But I don't know. I'm a fan of the opinion that, like, hey, listen, if I was a New England Patriots fan, which I'm not, but if I was, I'll accept Bill Belichick being a real jerk and not being a media savvy or a player coach because he got results. And so I think at the end of the day, that's
fine. But Belichick did not need to play the political games you have to play at Notre Dame to be able to get things done you need to get done to make your football team have a better chance to win. That's the difference. You had Robert Kraft giving you everything you need to win. You were pulling from the same end of the rope. It isn't the same at Notre Dame. You got to play those games to get things available to you that you need to be in a better position to win. That's a part of the job at Notre Dame, and I value that a lot. I value it way more than Kelly did. I value it way more than Kelly did. A lot of doors slammed in Kelly's face because of the way he treated people. That's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And I called in numerous times and complimented Freeman on his seeming ability to maybe move the administration in the right
time
direction.
To win. It is time to win.
It's partly.
It's time to win.
I do think it's partly advantageous, though, that Swarbrick is on his way out. Because it ushers in a new era. But I think that the one thing that being nice and being political doesn't do for you is be a good in-game coach and coach week to week, which we never seem to ever want to talk about it. The fact that he got out-coached in 4 games last year that resulted in 3 losses, and he could have. I mean, we
well, how much do you want to talk about it? How much do you want to talk about it? It sucked. It isn't good enough. It needs to be fixed. None of those mistakes are okay, and it could never happen again. There, we just talked about it. Was that so hard?
I know what.
Like what? What do you like? What? How much is there more to talk about? Or if you're just going to say they shouldn't have hired him, maybe we can avoid all of this, Andrew, and just say I'm not a Freeman guy because I don't think they should have hired him in the first place. And I don't have a problem with Freeman, but I have one with Jack or whoever hired him and got bullied by the players because they wanted their buddy as head coach. You could do that too.
I think I only brought that up, and that matters more than the politics behind the scenes. That's why I brought it up. Is the week-to-week coaching, and we don't have an answer on that. So.
Oh man, yeah, no, that definitely needs to be better. And that was a part of what I was trying to get through in that episode of, like, if you're going to have this miserable experience, the least you can do is let it help you moving forward in some way. Andrew, I was really trying to find a way to turn all those negatives that are just awful into anything that I could, like, maturely try and be like, maybe there's a lesson to be learned that'll make us stronger on the back end. Like, I'm grasping at straws to not let that Ohio State ending haunt me. You know what I mean? I'm like trying to find some parable, some life lesson where it's going to help us moving forward instead of just be this awful feeling for all time.
John, I apologize. I'm not trying to make you a punching bag for my Notre Dame feelings.
Oh, I sign up for it. Oh, Andrew, I sign up for it. I have the personality to do that. Like, I like it all, but I didn't expect this one this morning. I really didn't. With my filler summer episode there, I thought I was going to be cute with it. I just didn't expect to have some of the backlash. I'm glad I do. I know where people stand now.
I hear what you're saying. I guess where I'm coming from is because I do consume a lot of Notre Dame media, John, and I think you know that.
Yeah.
There's, in my opinion, at the end of the day, this is my last statement, there's too much happy talk when it comes to Freeman. And I feel like sometimes I need to counterbalance that because there are, as all the good points that you brought up and some of the good stuff that Freeman is doing, I, in my opinion, there are equally as many question marks. And so I just feel like they need to bring that up because it's just.
I can respect that.
There's a reason.
Yeah, I can
There's a
respect that.
reason why. There's a reason why with ESPN putting Notre Dame as the number one team in terms of being in terms of statistically should be
12 and
go
0.
undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason why all of us, including myself, will agree that this is the best team that Marcus Freeman will coach in terms of just overall talent. And there's a reason why we can all agree that this is the best coaching staff that Marcus Freeman has had. Yet none of us are confident that this is going to be a Final Four team, yet alone a national championship team. And so why is that? And I think it inevitably because we're not confident that Marcus Freeman can lead us there. Even the most positive Marcus Freeman supporters, they may not admit it out loud, but are not confident. And so that's why I feel need to bring up some counterpoints. So.
Yeah, nope. Hey, man, I do like you being around, pushing back on certain things. Like, that's what this is all about. And I'm fine with it. But man, sometimes it's just we all have the same finish line in mind. It's just how the hell are we going to get there?
Cool. Well, hopefully, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't want to piss you off, but
no, it's fine, man. It's fine. Well. Yeah. And you know what else too, Andrew? If I'm going to be pissed off or have like that issue or whatever, when it's somebody who's here every day and donates and calls and is in the mix, I'm a lot more open to taking shit from people that I know are genuinely in here for the right reasons too. You know what I mean? And so you're not some Johnny come lately shit on everything and then dip. Like that's a different thing to me too.
Yeah, definitely don't shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do remember you saying that you loved radio, sports talk radio when it was at its best. And I think oftentimes in sports talk or sports talk radio at its best is when you can be severely critical of who's in there. So I'm going to be the critical guy. I apologize. But
yeah, well,
you have plenty of people in the chat who are going to say that Marcus Freeman's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So,
yeah. But hey, man, I appreciate you jumping in and always being around. Have a good rest of the day. I hear your work computer blowing up over there behind you. Get back to work. Have a good
Thanks,
one.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
See ya. Oh, man. This ND football account sucks. Whoever you are, you suck. Like it's been a long morning. Quite frankly, you suck. You don't really like Notre Dame. You just come in here with that logo and then you totally take the opposite negative narrative and twist and flip everything. You don't like Notre Dame. You are not my favorite person in here. That's for sure. Mark with the $5 holler. You are a chick magnet, John. Yeah. Thanks. It means a lot coming from you, Mark. Like, I don't know where that came from, but I'm going to take it. But yeah, this ND football guy, you suck. You literally just come in here, take a dump on everything we're talking about, and then leave. Seriously, you are not a good account. All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks for debating. Thanks for donating. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for all of it. Wild Wednesday. All right, I'm out of here. We've been going 2.5 hours on a random Wednesday. I'm done. I'll see you guys.